Clint Eastwood's appearance on The View was billed as a rare and special event. At 94, the Hollywood legend had largely retreated from the limelight, only emerging for select projects or moments that truly mattered to him. So when producers at The View confirmed his presence for a live segment to promote his upcoming Western film Dust and Glory, fans and viewers alike anticipated a thoughtful, possibly nostalgic conversation with one of cinema's last great icons. Instead, what unfolded was a live TV powder keg that no one saw coming. The show began in its usual fashion, light banter among the co-hosts, a rundown of trending headlines, and then the highly anticipated introduction of Eastwood. As he walked onto the stage, the crowd erupted in applause. He gave a modest wave and a half smile, taking his seat next to Whoopi Goldberg. He looked every bit the living legend, rugged, unbothered, and completely himself in a crisp black jacket and dusty brown boots. At first, the vibe was pleasant. Whoopi welcomed him warmly, praising his legacy of over 6 decades in the film industry. "You've directed over 40 films, starred in even more, and at 94, you're still going strong," she said, clearly respectful. Clint responded with a quiet nod and a gravelly, "Still got a few stories to tell." The audience loved it. For the first few minutes, the discussion focused on his new film, his method of storytelling, and reflections on how Hollywood had changed over the years. But then Sonny Hostin took the conversation into deeper waters, referencing his 2008 film Gran Torino and the criticism it received for racial slurs and outdated portrayals. "Do you feel films like Gran Torino would be made the same way today, with today's heightened cultural sensitivities?" she asked. Clint's jaw tightened slightly. "Probably not," he said. "But I made it as a reflection of a flawed man, not a role model. That's the problem these days, people want to erase the uncomfortable parts instead of learning from them." A few murmurs moved through the crowd. Joy Behar leaned in, her voice sharp but calm. "But isn't there some responsibility for filmmakers to evolve with society? To be aware of how their work lands today, not just yesterday?" Clint's eyes narrowed. "There's responsibility, sure. But there's also honesty. My job isn't to coddle anyone. It's to tell the truth, even if it's ugly." The temperature in the room began to rise. Sarah Haynes tried to lighten the mood with a joke about Eastwood's famous line from Dirty Harry, but Joy pressed on. "It sounds like you're saying political correctness has gone too far. Is that what you're saying, Clint?" "I'm saying people today are too thin-skinned and too loud about things they barely understand," he shot back. "They scream for change but have no idea what it costs." At this point, the audience was holding its breath. Sonny shifted uncomfortably, while Whoopi attempted to pivot. "Let's talk about your work ethic. Still directing, still acting. What drives you at this stage in life?" But Joy wasn't done. She interrupted with a pointed jab. "Or maybe it's just easier to keep doing what you've always done than to rethink your impact." That was the moment Clint Eastwood's demeanor changed completely. He stared at Joy for a few seconds, his face like stone. Then he leaned forward, his voice low and firm. "Lady, I didn't come here to be lectured by someone who's made a career shouting over people. I've spent my life earning the respect I get, not demanding it." The audience gasped. A few clapped. The co-hosts froze. Whoopi raised a hand, her voice tinged with alarm. "Okay, let's cool it down. We've got a live audience, folks." But Clint had already started removing his microphone. "I thought I was here to talk about movies, not defend my existence. If you want a punching bag, go find someone else." He stood, slowly but steadily, and handed his mic to a stunned production assistant. The studio went silent as Eastwood, with deliberate calm, turned and walked off the set. Before he exited through the stage door, he paused, looked back over his shoulder, and said, "I've faced worse than this on a movie set in 110-degree heat. Good luck with your ratings." The screen abruptly faded to black and cut to an emergency commercial break. Inside the studio, chaos erupted, producers scrambling, co-hosts whispering furiously, and audience members buzzing in disbelief. What was supposed to be a legacy moment had just turned into a live TV showdown that would ripple far beyond the morning news cycle. When The View returned from the unexpected commercial break, the atmosphere was palpably tense. Whoopi Goldberg, now at the center of the panel, offered a carefully measured statement, clearly scripted during the few chaotic minutes off air. "Well, folks," she began, her voice calm but deliberate, "as you saw, things got a little intense. We invited Mr. Eastwood on to celebrate his incredible career. We regret that the conversation didn't stay in that space. We wish him the best." Joy Behar, meanwhile, sat rigid, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The smile she often wore during heated debates was gone, replaced by a distant stare. For once, Joy didn't add a quip or sarcastic remark. The panel quickly moved on to another topic, but the damage was done. Within minutes, social media was on fire. Clips of Eastwood's exit were posted, reposted, analyzed, and debated in real time. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok were flooded with reactions. Some viewers hailed Clint's defiance as a stand against what they saw as a culture of manufactured outrage. Others were furious at how a 94-year-old guest, arguably a cinematic legend, was treated with what they perceived as hostility and disrespect. The hashtag Eastwood on The View began trending within 15 minutes. Comments flooded in. ABC executives were reportedly blindsided. While The View had always embraced controversy, it thrived on fiery debate and viral moments. This was different. A publicist close to the show told media outlets, off the record, that Eastwood's team had sent a soft conditions list prior to the appearance. Though not formal demands, the list included a preference to focus on Clint's film work and avoid politicizing the conversation. Producers, perhaps sensing an opportunity for viral gold, ignored it. By the afternoon, Eastwood's publicist issued a short but pointed statement. Mr. Eastwood agreed to appear on The View to discuss his latest film and contributions to cinema. What he encountered was a combative and disrespectful environment. He will not be participating in any further interviews with the show. The fallout extended to the co-hosts as well. Joy Behar became the lightning rod for backlash. Petitions circulated online demanding an apology, or even her removal from the show. At the same time, her supporters launched counter-campaigns praising her for not being intimidated by Eastwood's reputation. Privately, tensions inside the studio were reportedly high. A leaked email from an ABC producer expressed concern over how the segment had been handled. "We pushed too hard. He's not a 35-year-old actor chasing relevance, he's Clint Eastwood. We should have respected that." The following morning, Clint Eastwood was photographed arriving back at his ranch in Carmel, California. Sunglasses on, expression unreadable, he waved off reporters asking for comment. TMZ captured the moment, shouting, "Clint, what do you think about the backlash?" He paused only briefly before muttering, "They'll forget about it in a week." But if he thought the media would move on quickly, he underestimated just how powerful the moment had become. Major outlets, CNN, Fox, The Hollywood Reporter, and even BBC, covered the incident. Talk radio hosts debated the generational divide between a straight-talking legend and a politically charged media format. Pundits used the moment to reflect on how difficult it had become for public figures to engage in open dialogue without stepping into controversy. Within a few days, a fresh wave of stories emerged. Old clips of Clint's previous interviews were resurfaced, some portraying him as a thoughtful, principled artist, others framing him as a relic clinging to outdated ideals. A few former co-stars, like Tom Hanks and Hilary Swank, were even asked for their opinion. Most stayed diplomatic. Amid all the noise, one person remained entirely silent, Clint himself. He made no follow-up statements, no appearances, no tweets. Instead, he poured himself back into the post-production of Dust and Glory, determined to let his work do the talking. As for The View, ratings for the following week spiked, predictably. Controversy brought viewers, even if it also brought criticism. Internally, discussions were underway about how to handle future high-profile guests, especially legends whose reputations deserved a different kind of approach. But for millions who watched that now infamous episode, the moment became emblematic of a cultural clash: old Hollywood versus new talk TV. Respect versus confrontation. Stoic grit versus unfiltered commentary. And though opinions may remain divided, one truth rang clear: Clint Eastwood didn't just walk off The View. He walked into history, again.